You're listening to the Awkward High-Five podcast. You can follow along in your book. You'll know it's time to turn the page when you hear the chimes ring like this.
Move it a little bit to the right. Yeah, a little that way. Just a little more to the right. Yeah, more. That's it, though. Stop right there. That's wonderful. Hey, Parker, what is that? Don't bother me now, sweet. Can't see I'm busy. Yeah, but what is that? It's a major award. A major award?
Shucks, I wouldn't have known, Dad. It looks like a lamp.
Well, it is a lamp, you nincompoop, but it's a major award. I won it. Damn hell, you say you won it? Yeah, mind power, Swede, mind power.
The entire neighborhood was turned on.
Oh, you should see what it looks like from out here.
It could be seen up and down Cleveland Street, the symbol of the old man's victory.
If he won that, it's a major award.
Isn't it?
It's a major award.
It's a hosticle Pfeiffer.
It was either that or you used up all the glue on purpose.
And all the old man can mutter is, not a finger.
You know, I think we started the Christmas movies a little premature, my friend. Because I was thinking like, oh, we had four shows before Christmas, but it's 2 weeks, so like, let's start with the Christmas movies. And then I was like, even Scrooged, which is my favorite Christmas film, like today I was like, oh, we did Christmas Vacation, easy. Today I'm just going to pick Scrooge. I'll pick, but then I was like watching all my favorite parts of Scrooged, and they're more kind of visual jokes than they are audio jokes, Like there's some things that use, but there's not, I don't know.
There's no like zingers.
Yeah, I guess there's no... Yeah, I don't know. It's just not... like, when I was looking at the parts, I was like, I don't know if this is going to work, So, we're going to have to eke out 2 other Christmas movies for the rest of this.
So, in Scrooge, is that the whole Murray brother fam in Scrooge? Because I think that is Dana Murray in Scrooge. Not the older brother, the younger brother.
Yeah, the one that gets the SS Minnow wrong. Yeah. That's his younger brother.
And that wasn't the dude you were talking about that one time?
The one I'm talking about is Joel Murray.
I didn't even know there was a Joel
Joel you're talking about what I said he was in that Bobcat Goldthwait film? Yeah. Joel Murray.
I didn't even know there was a Joel.
Yeah. And I do believe Brian Doyle does make an appearance, but Brian Doyle makes an appearance in almost every Bill Murray film, so... My favorite Christmas film by far. I got this. First, I guess, welcome to the Awkward High-Five podcast. My name is Devin.
And Ritchie.
I just wanted to, before I get into my little thing here, I just, as we were going on the air, got this email that said, and then it said, Dear Devin, what the fuck do you have against janitors? With multiple interrobangs afterwards. Sincerely, a currently reconsidering fan.
Holy shit.
And you know what, currently reconsidering fan? You're right. That is the second time on this podcast that for some strange reason I might have this like weird little fucking aneurysm going on where I use janitors as the example for the low-level job. And you know what I think it comes from?
The bike accident.
No. Yeah, any brain damage comes from that. No, but I think for some reason my default's going to janitors as the low-level job, which it absolutely is not. I have nothing against janitors, like that's a noble job. People have to do it or whatever. But I think it's from the fucking Breakfast Club. Because that guy, the janitor, is like, you think this is what I wanted to do in my life? You know what I mean? And I think ever since I was a kid, I just like associated for some reason the janitor being the shitty job.
I thought you were going to say UHF because Stanley Spadowski.
Oh yeah, good one as well. Or like it's when people use garbage men as an example. Garbage men make a fucking good money.
Yeah,
it's like besides having to get up at 3 a.m. and pick up garbage. It's a pretty decent fucking job to have.
They make as much as teachers make.
Yeah, definitely. Right. Or even more, some of them.
Probably more,
some of the, right, whatever. I knew a couple garbage men who worked in the city who made like pretty decent
Yeah,
fucking
and
money.
I'm sure you make more money in the city too.
Yeah,
'cause
right.
They got those piles of garbage.
So if anybody's listening to this podcast and you're a janitor, I have nothing against janitors. And if for some reason I keep brain farting that out, don't take offense to it. So the person who emailed me right before the show, you're completely correct.
You got to use some occupation. What occupation would you use that nobody has? It's impossible to
No,
do.
I know.
Someone's gonna get offended.
Yeah, right. It is always going to
Yeah.
happen. It's normally they'll just use like the record store clerk or something like that,
Yeah.
like, which makes sense, And it's not even saying that's a bad job. It's just being like you're kind of just making minimum wage, sitting behind a cash, but that doesn't exist anymore. So
Usually people use gas pumper.
well,
That's what I've heard. But that can only
maybe
be
in
in
New Jersey.
Jersey,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
what I was going to say because it doesn't really exist anywhere
Right.
else. So maybe. But even that, I mean, whatever, you want to pump gas, I don't have any problems with any fucking jobs.
I remember when I was a kid, I thought people that pump gas got tips. Do they get tips?
I think that used to happen because remember they would always do your windshield
Yeah.
for you, and you would be like,
Fill
fuck,
up
this
your
is
air and
does this
shit.
mean I have to tip them
Yeah.
now? But I think that's
Yeah,
gone
'cause
away.
I remember Ma Dukes used to tip not much, but she's always like, yeah, keep the change.
Yeah.
But
Again, I mean, if you're listening to this and you don't live in New Jersey, I think there's one other state that does, and I don't even know what that is.
I don't even know.
But
Maybe Pennsylvania. Did we have to pump our own gas in Pennsylvania? I don't remember.
no, I think in Pennsylvania you pump your own gas.
do?
Yeah, I don't know. Whatever, it doesn't matter. But that is a weird thing. I hate that. You know what that reminds me of that I hate. And I'm from New Jersey, but there's all those memes that are like, if you're from New Jersey, if you pump your own gas,
yeah.
you know what exits are.
Yeah.
You call it pork roll, not Taylor
I was
ham.
gonna say pork roll,
all that
egg and
fucking
cheese.
shit. It's just that makes me embarrassed to be from New. I love New Jersey, and all that, but that shit makes me embarrassed.
If there's like a picture of a pork roll, egg and cheese and it says, "Good morning, New Jersey."
Oh, and another thing I fucking can't stand, and I know that this is not a popular opinion because everybody uses it, but I hate when people use the term "dirty jers." I'm from
yeah.
the dirty jers. Shut the fuck up, dude. Like, why would you even want to call your fucking place that? It's New Jersey or Jersey. You could call it Jersey, but I don't know. I mean, yes, it is dirty in certain parts, but you don't have to call it the dirty jers.
Yeah.
So anyway, I woke up today. I've been an unemployed person. Technically unemployed for about 10 months now. It's been great.
It's a nice stretch.
That's actually coming to a close too. But so in that time, I've kind of reverted back to my natural sleep state, which is more the stay up until about 3 or 4 in the morning and then wake up around 11 or noon in the afternoon. For me, that's just my natural thing. If I was a caveman dweller in the prehistoric times, that would be my sleep routine. That's my natural sleep, So I woke up. I set an alarm today for the first time in a very, very long time. I set an alarm. I woke up at 8:30 a.m., took a shower in the cold, got dressed, and guess where I went?
To the movies.
I went to the movies. Guess what movie I saw?
Star Wars.
Star Wars.
I knew it.
And hey, did you see that scary Darth Vader mask? Yeah, I saw it. And here's the thing. I didn't really care about seeing it. I'm not one of these.
I thought you were into Star Wars.
I was into Star Wars when I should have been into Star Wars when I was, 8 to 16 years old.
When you played with the figurines. In
Yeah,
the tub.
right. I loved it. When the second one came out in 1983, that was the first movie that I ever went to. And it wasn't my choice. I was 3 years old, but my parents brought me to the movie theater to see that, and that was the first film that I ever saw in the movies.
Which one was it?
What is? See, that's how off I am on
Like
it.
the
Is it Empire? Yeah, it's
Empire
Empire
Strikes
Strikes Back.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and then when I was a kid, I had the action figures, and I loved the movies. And then when they made those other three, I was like still kind of into it. Then that was when I was in my like mid-teens.
Is that when they made those?
Yeah.
The ones with like Jar Jar Binks.
Yeah. Which kind of knocked you out of it. I'm not going to sit here and be one of those people who's like, that thing was hard. I can't get into that whole fanboy bullshit. I just don't care about it. I like the original Star Wars because they were fun movies in the same way that I like Indiana Jones, in the same way that I like any of those adventure movies from when I was a kid, But I don't hold it to be this holy thing. So when this one came out and it was a Disney film, I even like put a couple jabs on Facebook, not because I don't like the franchise, but just because everyone was freaking out so much about it.
Yeah.
My contrarian fucking bones were itching to make a little jab or two.
I hear you.
And but my friends, they said, "Hey, we got an extra ticket. Would you like to go?" And I was like, "Yes, I would like to go." And so I saw the movie.
Did you enjoy it?
I hear it. So yes, I'm going to say now. I went into this The best thing about this, not being a huge Star Wars fan anymore, is that I went into this with absolutely no expectations. I could have went in and it could have been the worst movie ever. I could have went in and it could have been the greatest movie ever. And I would have just kind of been like, okay, cool. You know, that was an experience. But I'm going to say that I was pleasantly impressed and surprised by this film.
And it was made by someone that wasn't George Lucas, right?
Well, George Lucas had sold the rights to Disney, and then they got J.J. Abrams, who I guess is like the ultimate fan. That's another thing I was talking.
Okay, and that's Harry Potter guy.
No, Harry Potter guy. I don't know anything about
Lord of the Rings guy.
No, that's what's his name? That's
Peter
Star Wars.
Jackson.
Peter Jackson.
Yeah.
No, J.J. Abrams is, I guess he's done. He did. Well, this is the thing that I was going to say. Is that before the Star Wars film, they ran a Star Trek trailer for the newest Star Trek, and then I realized that the reboot of Star Trek was also directed and produced by J.J. Abrams, and now Star Wars is directed by J.J. Abrams.
That's going to create some problems in the nerd department.
I don't know this for sure, and if it's even a thing anymore, but I mean, I remember the two biggest beefs I remember there ever being was who were better, the Beatles or the Stones, and what is better, Star Trek or Star Wars?
Yeah.
So, and then all of a sudden, there's a monopoly on these things. I don't know. I don't know how that works, but I would guess there's some fanboys out there that are pissed off.
Yeah. There's probably some action about that. And what I always wondered, what is the correlation with Star Wars and punk rock music?
1977.
Oh, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
A New Hope came out in 1977. 77 was the year for punk rock.
Gotcha. All right. I thought there was.
And it's also the that first film, which is by far the best of all of them. Obviously, it is about this big evil empire and this young rebellion that's happening underneath it. So it's the people taking it that far.
That's what I thought. I thought it had something to do with rebellion or something.
Yeah. Right.
Because I never, besides that bar scene that's famous just because it
the
is
cantina.
I couldn't tell you the first thing about Star Wars.
You just like that because it was the closest thing to the Muppets on that.
I guess so.
Thing.
I never seen Star Wars. I never seen The Empire Strikes Back. I've just seen Spaceballs.
Yeah, right.
And that's it.
Well, that's a good film to see.
Yeah.
Look, that's the thing. I'm not going to sit here and be one of those people who are like, oh my God, you've never seen Star Wars. Because honestly, it's great. Star Wars is great. It was a part of my childhood that I loved, and I did like this movie. I'm going to get to that for a second. But I feel, and again, probably unpopular opinion, but I feel like a lot of people out there are just freaking out over this thing just to freak out over this thing because it's what the rest of the world is doing.
Totally.
Like, if you're really going to sit there and look at yourself, is this kind of space soap opera, cartoony fucking Disney movie really what your 45-year-old fucking ass is like have waited for your whole entire life? It can't be. It can't. And if it is, then that's really sad as a human race for us. I understand entertainment and like, dude, I was there at 9:45 this fucking morning watching the movie, so I'm not trying to talk from some soapbox about this, But I think if everybody was to really look inside themselves, there's got to be some medium from all the million people that are just freaking the fuck out, buying boxes of cereal just because they have fucking Yoda's fucking face on it and shit. And then the people that are like, oh, everyone's a piece of shit that likes that movie. There's got to be some equilibrium between those two that actually makes sense because it's too far blown in either situation. So I'm not going to do any spoilers. I don't want to spoil. I know that's
people
a
are
big
getting
thing.
jumped over that shit.
Everybody's worried about spoilers. But I will give my honest opinion on the movie. I think that it was leagues above the prior three that they made because those really were. This might have been the first Disney Star Wars film, but those other three were children's movies, hands down. This was not. This actually held true to the original, at least the first two, because I considered the third one that had a bunch of fucking teddy bears running around in it or whatever.
Oh, that's the Ewoks?
Yeah. So that was kind of a.
That's the only one that the Ewoks made an appearance?
That was it. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And then but anyway, there's two things that I really liked about it. One, it kind of restarted an interesting story again. So it was something that you actually cared about and you left there being like, I want to see what happens, which wasn't something that they accomplished in the prior three. When I say the prior three, I mean the second.
Original.
No, not the original. The second one that they did.
Oh, okay.
And that was very cool. And then another thing that I really liked about it was that it wasn't over the top CGI cartoony.
Good.
They kind of held true to the reasons that the earlier ones from the 70s and the 80s were so cool was because a lot of those effects weren't digital. You know, they were analog effects. They were figuring out ways to make it look like the cars are floating. And I don't know how much
CGI. A car on a string.
I don't know how much CGI or not they used in this. But even if they did use a lot, they found a way to not make it look cartoonish and weird.
That's good.
You know, like the characters were actually people in suits. They weren't digitally imposed. And in the overall movie itself had kind of like a graininess to it. I guess what I'm saying is I expected it to be much more clean and digitalized and in your face cartoony or whatever, and it wasn't. So that was cool. Those are the things I liked about it. The story was really good.
And they brought back a lot of original characters too, right? Like,
well, see, I don't want to talk about any of that.
Right.
You know,
well, that you saw just in the poster,
right?
Because I think I saw Harrison Ford's mug in that poster, right?
Well, here's the one thing that I do want to say, and it is about a character that reappears in this movie, is that Carrie Fisher is fucking nuts. And there's no reason. I understand that she's the original Princess Leia. They should have gotten somebody to play her and like plastic surgery her face up to look like Leia, because this woman cannot act. She could hardly even talk or keep eye contact in this film. It's crazy. And like
she is nuts.
She's nuts. Yeah.
And like in real life, nuts.
And I was kind of saying like afterwards, I was like, yeah, you know, like Carrie Fisher really fucking really sucked in that film. Like there's one scene where it's a close-up scene, it's a heartfelt goodbye scene, and she's talking to the other person, and she just is not acting. She's just this maniac who's just talking. It takes you completely out of it, right? And then I started thinking to myself, well, she wasn't good in the original Star Wars either. Like everybody, you know, she's part of the pantheon now, so people just give her a pass. But if you watch those movies, she's by far the weakest link acting-wise in those movies.
They were better off with Vespa, probably.
Daphne Zunga, by the way, of Melrose Place fame.
Oh, right.
And there's nothing about Spaceballs I don't know.
I forgot that's Joey from Melrose, right? Or Joe?
Joe. Yeah. And
holy shit.
So anyway, I was thinking back at the early Star Wars, and I was like, she wasn't good in that. And then I started thinking, why does Carrie Fisher have a career? Because she's not that good of an actress. And I started filing through all the movies that she was in my head to find out which ones she was in. And then I realized that the one believable role that she ever had was in fucking Blues Brothers. And it was because she played a fucking maniac ex-girlfriend who wanted to kill John Belushi. And so I was like, you know what? That wasn't her acting. That's real Carrie Fisher.
Yeah.
Blues Brothers is real Carrie Fisher.
And that didn't reference Star Wars at all? I thought it was kind of like a Star Wars reference. Or she was just...
she just played
maybe because she was just holding a gun. Maybe I thought, you know.
Yeah, no, remember she's like his ex who's
fires
like out.
Off that AK.
Yeah. And that was probably why they gave it to her. They're like, all right, this is just who she is.
Yeah.
Like she probably was actually like that to John Belushi in real life. You know, she was like probably one of those chicks. So overall, I'm going to give the new Star Wars 117 Millennium Falcons. And that's
a good?
I don't know. That's out of 100 and I don't know, 27 Millennium Falcons.
Okay.
No, I don't know.
I don't know anything about those Falcons.
It's a good movie. It's a good movie. I'm sitting here not caring about it, telling you it's a good movie. So it's a fun thing to watch. Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but I just can't do sci-fi. All Twilight Zone aside,
right?
But I just can't. I never got into like, you know, like outer space adventures and robots and shit.
Yeah,
I think do that.
People call Star Wars sci-fi. I think that's a stretch. If I was to call
adventure,
I'd call it a fantasy film.
Oh, fantasy!
It's in space, so that like almost automatically makes it sci-fi.
Mm.
But the thing is more about these mystical forces, and those lightsabers might as well be swords, and those fucking big things might as well be dragons. I mean, that's really what it is. It just looks a little bit more technical.
Right. Well, that's what I noticed about any movie that's supposed to take place in the future. It's always just the medieval times with high-tech shit.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
you know
exactly.
What I mean? It's almost like they revert, you know, people talk like it was the Middle Ages and act and dress, but then they use like fucking lightsabers.
Yeah, they always think that the future, like we're going to revert back to
the Roman
like
Empire,
the Dark Ages or something like that. Yeah, but have better technology or whatever.
Yeah, that's all it is.
And that's
even Game of Thrones is like that. I feel like it's the Roman.
Is that supposed to be the future? I don't know anything about that.
Or what? Fantasy? Whatever.
Yeah, well, that's total fantasy. Yeah. That's fucking doth thou sword puncture thy dragon.
Yeah,
I hate that.
They always talk like it's the Canterbury Tales.
Yeah,
you know.
That's my one out, man. Everybody I know, you gotta watch Game of Thrones. You gotta watch Game of Thrones. You gotta watch Game of Thrones. I watched the first season and I couldn't make it through it. As soon as people are like, "Doth thou blah blah blah," like unless I'm reading Shakespeare or like a Shakespeare play or something like that, and even then, it's hard for me to get through. But in modern days, why? I don't get it. But I guarantee you, anybody at home right now is saying you're fucking out of your mind because that's all I get. Mm-hmm. There's not one other person on the face of this earth that I've met that agrees with me that they don't like. What's it called?
Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones. Yeah.
I don't get into that. I mean, I've tried to watch it. You know, I just can't get into. I can't get into anything with dragons and fucking swords.
Yeah, right.
Except the Princess Bride and Neverending Story. And that's about as far as it goes.
And Willow. And was there dragons in Willow?
I just remember the midget. That's all I remember about Willow.
Yeah.
I don't remember much about that.
Yeah. I don't know. So, yeah, but, you know, it was weird because you're bringing up sci-fi, and it might be my favorite film of the year, although I'm not going to say that for sure because we're going to do our year in review episode.
Don't give it away.
But two of the actors in this film were the actors in this other film, which was an actual sci-fi film called Ex Machina. Or Ex Machina.
That came out this year?
Yeah, it came out this year.
I didn't even hear about that.
Watch it. It's amazing. It's a fucking... Really? As far as sci-fi films go, this is real deal sci-fi. This is like closed quarters, like 3 actors in the whole thing, psychological fucking nuttiness, and it's great.
Yeah.
And but 2 of the dudes that are in that film are like part of this, and I was kind of sitting there watching this, and I'm like, this is weird. That it's, you know, like this is supposed to be a sci-fi film, but these guys were in like a much better sci-fi film that's, you know, a lower end sci-fi film, that kind of thing. I don't know. So,
yeah.
Anyway, that's my Star Wars.
That was good. You didn't spoil a thing.
No, I'm not going to spoil anything.
Yeah, no. Let the nerds enjoy it.
Although I will say, and maybe I'll say later on, once everybody saw it and it's all out and everybody knows what happens or whatever, is that I'm not going to say I called it. I'm not going to say I went in there going like, I know what the big reveal is going to be. But I had in my mind an idea of the big thing that did happen in the movie. I was like, I bet you they do this. Like, I just kind of felt it, you know, like this is like the safest way to make something crazy happen, but then also be able to move on. Yeah. And that's exactly what happened.
Hey, you know, it's funny you said that because there was a time where I like stopped watching movies altogether and it just wasn't important to me. And I'm starting to watch movies again, and they're making a lot of the movies with the big twist endings, you know? And I'm getting to the point where I'm able to predict the twist ending.
Sure.
And I hate it.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
Yeah.
Because those twist endings used to get me. You know, like Gone Girl. Did you see Gone Girl? Like,
no.
That tricked the shit out of me. And there's a couple that tricked the shit out of me. Now, recently, in the past, I would say the past couple of weeks, I'm watching movies with big twist endings, and I'm predicting the shit out of them.
Yeah.
They just can't get me anymore.
Because they use it so much now that they have you looking for the twist or the swerve in the beginning, especially if it's supposed to be like a psychological thriller or a horror film or something like that.
Yeah.
You're always watching it with the eye of, okay, I'm going to figure out what this swerve is before it happens. Mm-hmm. When we used to not do that, anything pre Sixth Sense, you really didn't do that. When movies did have a big surprise at the end of it, we were like, fuck, that was a pretty good surprise. Unless it was like a bad movie and you could figure it out, you know, anyway.
Yeah.
But it's post Sixth Sense that people have started, because they overused it so much, because that movie was a horrible movie. That M. Night Shyamalan guy, he can't make movies. Yeah. I'm sorry. He can't. Every one of his movies suck as far as movies go.
There was one good one. What was the one good one by Shyamalan?
Nope.
I think
the one good one was a Sixth Sense. Go back and watch it. It's horrible.
Is that what I'm thinking about?
But here's the thing. Is that twist at the end of the movie was so fucking good because, you know, like there's going to be people out there who be like, dude, I called it, or whatever. I guarantee, like nobody went to that movie, especially in the opening weekend, expecting a twist. So nobody called shit, you know? So it hit everybody so fucking hard, and that's the reason that movie became so popular.
Yeah.
And then you know, Hollywood being the bland corporate machine that it is, was just like, okay, you know, the guy chomping on a cigar, we need more twist movies,
Yeah.
you know, and like fucking, and then they started throwing out all these fucking movies. That's why Shyamalan got more fucking work, you know? And then he made that stupid Bruce Willis's Can't Get Killed, and then Samuel L. Jackson is in a wheelchair film, which is
Unbreakable?
horrible. Yeah. They just got worse and worse and worse as they went down. But
I know the good one. I like the one where all the people are trapped in the elevator and one of them is the devil.
Never saw that. You know
like
what? And that was
one.
the only one that I was thinking about watching, and more specifically because the dude with the buggy eyes from Super Troopers is in it, and I was like, this guy's a real actor. I want to see if he could actually
the
act.
buggy eyes and Super
Yeah, the
Troopers.
schnozberries taste like schnozberries.
Oh yeah, he is in that.
Yeah, and I was like, this guy could actually act, and
Yeah,
I wanted to
he's
watch.
pretty good in that,
Yeah,
too.
I believe it.
No, that's my favorite Shyamalan out of all of them.
But all right, I haven't watched it, but I'm just gonna guess the black guy's the devil, right?
No.
Really?
Yeah.
When I saw the commercial, I was like, they're just gonna make the black guy
That was
the
the most
devil.
racist thing I've ever heard in my life.
Look, it's not racist.
I'm
It was just what I was thinking.
And he's a fucking janitor, so that's a double whammy.
Oh my God, is
No,
he?
he's like the maintenance worker, but that's gonna be classified as janitor.
That's a janitor, my friend. Maintenance worker is a janitor.
Holy shit! You're gonna
What
get
is up with
emails.
me and janitors?
Now they're the devil.
You know, I've secured some employment, but I might have to go in order to get a place to live on my own. Go get a part-time employment. So maybe I should become a janitor.
See
just
how
so
it is.
I could eat my own crow.
Yeah. see how the other half lives.
But what I wanted to bring up about the twist thing is that the most overused one now, and I just saw another movie the other day that it was, you know, I don't care about spoiling it because it's like this fucking Austrian horror film, so I don't know how many people are going to watch it.
Fuck it.
But if you do want to, it's called Good Night Mommy. And if you were planning on watching Good Night Mommy and you don't want it spoiled, don't listen to the next 30 seconds of the show. Okay. And the twist is, it's kind of the Sixth Sense twist that they've used over and over again. This film, there's two boys and their mom comes home from surgery and they don't think that their mom's there and they like start like harming her. It's actually a pretty good movie as far as cinematography and everything goes.
What do you mean they start harming her?
Like they don't believe this woman goes and gets plastic surgery done. So she comes home with bandages all over her, right? And the two kids, she starts treating the kids badly, like worse than she ever has. So the kids think that somebody's replaced their mother. And and so they I don't want to give away the whole movie, but they end up like really and there's a lot of conflict and everything. But well, I guess I am going to ruin the movie because I'm going to give the swerve.
Yeah.
The swerve is that I guessed from the beginning is that there used to be two twins. One of them has died, and the guy, it's really just one kid, and he's imagining the other kid the whole film, right?
Okay, but does the mom acknowledge the second one?
No, well, that's the thing. You know, they play it in that way where it feels like they do what they do, but then it's supposed to be when you go back and watch it, you're like, just like the Sixth Sense.
Yeah.
Oh,
No one talks
The
to
door
Bruce.
was always locked. No one would talk
Yeah.
directly to him and all that shit, right?
Yeah.
So I was watching it. I called it immediately. I was like, this is the thing with this movie. That kid's fucking dead, and that's what ended up being. And also there was a season of Dexter. That the Colin Hanks season of Dexter, I forget what that was. We could talk about a show that fucking drove off a fucking cliff, but it was the same thing. And I was it was when I was living with my ex-fiance, and we were watching it. And if you haven't gotten this far in Dexter and you don't want that spoiled, don't listen for the next 30 seconds. But it's the Colin Hanks fucking thing, and I think it was the second episode. It was, and it's Colin Hanks and Edward James Olmos. Right?
Yeah.
And captain of the Battlestar Galactica. And
Captain of Miami Vice.
Yes, and Captain of Miami Vice. And they're sitting at a diner.
And a man who is much needed of some Bill Phil.
Yes, he's a Bill Phil candidate.
Yeah.
They're sitting at a diner or a restaurant or whatever, and they're talking. And the waitress comes over and she's refilling their water, and she just refills Colin Hanks's water. And this was like in the second episode, and I was like, Edward James almost is dead. He's not. He's a figment of his imagination. And my fiance was like, "What the fuck? Like, why you? Number one, why are you trying to ruin this or whatever?" I was like, "I'm just calling it. I know it right away." And then you got through the season, and that actually ended up being the swerve of the season. And it's just so over fucking done now that I actually look for that, you know? So like, I don't think you're ever going to catch me off guard with that swerve ever again,
right.
you know?
Yeah.
Even in Mr. Robot, they kind of did that angle, and they kind of played it a little bit differently, but everybody immediately was like, it's like, or like Fight Club, the Tyler, the figment of the imagination thing is played out.
It's gone.
It's a trope that Hollywood should not use
Yeah.
anymore, at least until somebody could do it originally again, and then start to
Well, since we're ruining movies, I just saw one, and it was called The Gift. And low budge flick.
Oh, Jason Bateman.
Yeah,
correct?
You saw that?
I did not, no.
So do you care if I ruin it?
No, I don't give a fuck. I'm gonna
Yeah,
watch it.
yeah, it's bullshit.
Okay, but
movie.
let me say, if you have not watched The Gift
Yes.
and you don't want it ruined, don't listen for the next 30 seconds.
Yep. So I totally guessed it, but the reason why I didn't believe my guess is because I couldn't believe that Jason Bateman could be a bad guy. So I was like, no way is Bateman.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah, he ends up being like a bully.
Oh,
Because this dude's coming around, he's stalking Bateman and his wife, coming around every day, and Bateman's like, he's a fucking weirdo, why is he coming around? And what happens is, Bateman's the bully, but the dude, he seeks revenge on Bateman in a pretty good way. That I won't spoil, because it's really fucked up, so I won't spoil it. But I guessed it, but I didn't want to believe it, because you don't want to believe that Bateman's a bad guy.
I know.
It was tough to watch. And he doesn't do any killing, or he doesn't, hurt anyone to the point of, serious injury, but you just don't want to see Bateman that way.
Yeah.
I didn't want to see Bateman
So was
that
he
way.
was he a serious bully, or did he just push this guy in a locker when they were kids and now this guy's coming back to kill him? Because if that's the case, then the other guy's still the bad guy.
He did some serious damage to this guy. No, he didn't physically hurt him that bad, but he did some mental damage. He pretty much ruined the guy's life in a way. But he was such a bully, but then you find out that in his adult years, he's still bullying people around. And
Is it on the level?
Changed.
Is it on the level of what Emilio Estevez did to Anthony Michael Hall in The Breakfast Club with the underwear? It's worse than that.
It was probably like that but now they're older, But he's still bullying motherfuckers around, and not just the dude that came. He's bullying everyone in his life. He's just a straight up bully. But this dude actually does some sneaky shit to get back at him, and it's pretty fucked up. It ends up being pretty fucked up.
So, are you giving a recommendation to watch this movie? Because I can honestly say I was never going to watch it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not screaming over it. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I wouldn't pick that over something else I wanted to watch. But if you were going to watch it, you want to check it out. I mean, since I just kind of ruined it,
I don't give a fuck about that.
There's really not much more to it.
Okay. Yeah, no, I'm just asking.
Except what the guy does for revenge is pretty sweet.
That's what I'm saying. I'll watch it. I like Jason Bateman. I prefer him better when Buster and Job are there, but I guess I could watch him be a bully to high school.
Wait, don't tell me.
Please, you don't know.
I know, I do, because of Job.
It's the greatest television show ever made. Ever.
Oh, duh, Arrested Development.
Yeah.
I knew it, but I just couldn't think of it.
I'd be like, oh man, John and Paul.
What band
is that? John and Paul. Give me a second.
Yeah, no, it just took a second.
Yeah, okay, sure. Speaking of bands, you said that you got some inside info, some fucking first line.
Yeah, as if anyone couldn't figure it out for themselves. I just thought it was interesting because of what the actual combo was. Because as everyone knows by this point, that the singer Scott Weiland of Stone Temple Pilots is dead.
When I feel at a time's worst go.
And they say it was cardiac arrest, but anyone with common knowledge knows why it was cardiac arrest. I was just curious as to when the toxicology report was actually going to come out, which it did today.
Which is quick, by the way, because didn't he just die?
Nah, that was like 2-3 weeks ago.
Yeah, but still, I feel like whenever they say that there's going to be like an autopsy or a toxicology report, it always takes like a while. Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
Because I remember when what's his name from Gwar, the lead singer from Gwar, why can't I think of his name right now?
Can't even help you with that.
Yeah, well, when he fucking...
Oh, quick little bit here. Crystal works as the drummer of Biohazard.
Oh, really?
Yeah. How funny is that?
That's pretty funny.
Anyway.
Yeah, when he died, I remember, because we were arguing at the time, me and my friend, and my friend was saying it was a drug overdose, and I was like, I don't think he really did drugs. So we were going back and forth, and we were waiting for the toxicology report, and it took like a month and a half or something, and then it ended up being drugs and all that. But so anyway, go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, so they revealed what the actual drugs were that Weiland took, and I thought it was going to say heroin.
Oh, wait, can I guess?
I told you.
Yeah,
Did you forget?
Yeah,
go ahead,
you
guess.
started to tell me the thing, and I said, "Don't tell me this. Say it
okay.
on the air."
Oh, right. Okay, you can guess.
How many were there?
Some reports say 2, some reports say 3.
Okay, so I'm definitely...
And one, I'm not even sure what it really is. I have a guess of what it is, but I'm not sure.
Okay. I mean, my first guess is going to be that fucking motherfucking heroin.
Nope.
Really?
Yeah, that was my first guess too, but no.
No heroin.
No heroin.
Okay, so my second guess is going to be methamphetamine.
No.
Jesus.
Yeah.
It can't be cocaine, right? Nobody dies from cocaine anymore.
That was in his system.
Oh, but I guess cardiac arrest. I mean, well, methamphetamine will definitely make your heart explode more than coke will.
Yeah, no doubt.
Okay, so coke, I got one.
Yep.
Okay. That keeps me alive for one more. I'm making my own rules here.
All right.
Not meth, not heroin, coke. So he mixed coke with something else, is what you're saying?
Yeah, unless it was just in his, because it could stay in your system. But these are the things they noticed in his system.
You know what? I'm going to say alcohol, coke and alcohol.
Nope.
Okay, all right, that's 3 strikes. Give it to us.
It was cocaine.
Uh-huh.
It was MDMA, which is known to the kids as Molly.
Or ecstasy if you lived in the 90s.
Right. And some reports say ethanol and some do not, which I'm thinking is ether. Was he sniffing ether?
I don't know what ethanol is.
Which would be hilarious.
Fucking Hunter S. Thompson style.
Yeah. Sitting in the back of his tour bus just huffing the shit out of some ether. So depraved.
That's not. I don't know if that's something to laugh about. That's fucking kind of. That's kind of sad.
Yeah, but that was his. I guess his trifecta of joy right there.
You know what? Like if there was ethanol, it's probably something that the coke was cut with or something like that.
Right.
Because
could be, unless it's something. I don't know.
Yeah, ethanol, also commonly called ethyl alcohol or drinking alcohol or simply alcohol. So that's alcohol.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I was right. I got 2.
All right.
Yeah,
Why would they say ethanol? Why wouldn't
because they're being all scientific?
Maybe
and shit.
Was he drinking rubbing alcohol?
No. This is ethanol. It says is actual drinking.
Oh,
alcohol.
it's real alcohol.
Me and you just learned something together.
Yes,
on the
we
air.
did.
This is the first time ever,
and
probably
science.
the last time ever that you, me, or the listening audience will ever learn anything on the Awkward High Five podcast. But
I learned something recently. I forgot what it was. Well, I'm always learning shit every day with all these mechanisms around.
Right. Yeah, absolute alcohol, cologne, spirit, drinking alcohol. Yeah, that's so he was drinking alcohol.
Boozing, doing coke, and however he chose to ingest his Molly was doing Molly. Which is weird because, they call it MDMA, but who knows what you're getting these days. Like,
well, isn't MDMA the purest form of all that? Because I remember even when we were kids and ecstasy was popular, it was like, well, that shit's stepped on and dirty. Like MDMA is the real way to go. Because I think we
actually had that was real Molly. What we had now that it's like this crusty ass like crystally shit that kids eat, and it's just a combination of all these weird drugs that they just mix together and make this crap out of. And
wasn't that what ecstasy was? Except it was in a pill.
Yeah, but there was actually MDMA in it.
Okay.
I mean, maybe there is MDMA in this Molly, but I don't know what people are. They just mix a bunch of stuff. People are just, going in the kitchen, mixing everything together and making their own drugs these days. And it's pretty fucking scary.
Well, that's kind of how drugs came about.
I guess. But, all the real drugs, all the old man drugs, as, kids call it, they all come from plants. Weed comes from a plant. Coke comes from a plant.
The cocoa plant?
Yeah. Heroin comes from a plant,
Yeah.
And all these other drugs don't. They're all
but acid doesn't come from a plant. Acid was made in a lab.
It comes from a fungus.
No, acid was 100% made in a lab.
It comes from a fungus.
I don't.
It comes from the fungus of rye.
No,
LSD.
I don't believe that's true.
In 1943, a Swiss chemist incidentally ingested some rye fungus, therefore invented LSD.
Okay,
I had to do a 5-page report on it.
Really?
Yeah.
But LSD is a lysergic acid diethylamide or whatever, right? So how does that... Okay, I'm going to take your word for it because you know more about this than I do. But I could have sworn that the acid was made in a lab with beakers and fucking...
I'm sure it is.
Right, so it's not natural.
But that's how it was, invented, I guess.
Okay. But I mean, that's still not natural. It's still not,
Right, well, but if you want to look at it that way, neither is coke, neither is heroin, because so much shit goes into that. It's not like you're taking the poppy plant and grinding it and fucking shooting it,
Right.
There's a lot of shit in there that who knows what it is.
Right. Yeah, well, obviously the only natural thing is weed, and that's why it shouldn't even be considered a drug.
Right. Right.
So, well, that's interesting.
That was Weiland's cocktail.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there's so many of those designer drugs now. Like, have you seen that new drug flakka?
No, I'm off the drug scene.
Well, I just think you would, because I only seen it on Facebook. I never seen anyone actually do the thing. But
what is it? And does it have anything to do with that Waka Flocka flame guy?
I was hoping it did, but it doesn't. I guess maybe they named it after him. I don't know. But I don't even know how it's done. I don't know if there's smoke. I think they smoke it. I'm not sure.
Okay, I just realized right now in this room that we are officially old as fuck,
shit, right?
Because we're sitting here going, is that the Flocka thing after the Flocka guy? Those crazy drugs that those kids do? Why do they call it Molly?
You smoke the reefer?
Yeah, that's us now. So what is it? What does it do?
You go absolutely insane. It's almost like
DMT.
No, it's not like DMT. It's like
Do you smoke it? Do you?
I think you smoke it. But do you remember when in Fear and Loathing when Hunter S. Thompson and Dr. Gonzo say that they're doing adrenochrome?
Yeah.
And it's like almost like you're being attacked by people that aren't there.
Yeah, right.
It's kind of like that. It's kind of like a bath salts effect, I guess. You go psycho.
Okay.
You go absolutely psycho.
Right.
Like I read this one article, a dude on Flakka tried to break into prison to see his buddy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you just lose your
Well, at least
fucking
it gives
mind.
you some motivation.
Yeah. You lose your fucking mind, you know?
Right. Flakka, otherwise known as gravel, is an NPS, a new psychoactive substance, and users can often end up hallucinating and acting dangerously. The drug has been linked to several deaths in the United States, and in August, MTV were even looking into some flakka addicts on a new episode of their reality show, True Life.
Really?
It is described by many as a type of bath salt. So there you go. You hit it right on the head. Infamous for the 2012 incident where a guy bit off a motherfucker's face. Remember that?
Yeah. When I think of bath salts, I always think of Sons of Anarchy. Remember the dude like One Ball or whatever? He was part of the crew. Or one sack. He had like one testicle, so they called him like One Ball. Or
Right,
some shit.
right.
He was part of their crew, but they had to write him out of the season. I think he was written out of the season before. But he went crazy on bath salts, killed his landlord, and then like jumped off his balcony and broke his fucking head.
Oh, okay.
Because he went crazy on bath salts.
Oh man, you know what's so fucking funny about that? I didn't know that bath salts weren't bath salts. You know, like I thought bath salts were just like you could go to fucking Bed Bath and Beyond, buy the regular bath salts and snort them and get all fucked up.
That's what I thought.
No, it's not. It's like
They just call it that?
They just call it bath salts, but it's like kind of a drug. I don't know if they're involved or something like that, but it's not. I don't think it's, whatever.
Oh, okay.
And so this had to be 2 years ago or 3 years ago. It was at my engagement party at my ex-fiance's parents' home. And I was there, and it was okay. Like I guess if I'm going to be honest about it now, it kind of sucks. It was like it was just a weird thing that was like done way too quick. And
What, you talking about the party
the
itself?
party itself,
Oh, okay.
And of course I had to be like, talking to everybody. And the type of person I am. I love going to parties and being sociable, but when I'm the center of attention, it's like it makes me want to just crawl in a corner or whatever. So I went upstairs into the family upstairs bathroom, and I was just like washing my face or whatever, took a piss, and we're sitting there, and I looked at on top of the toilet, and there was a thing of bath salts, and it even said bath salts, and then there was a window that led out to like the backyard to where like the tent was with all the catered food and everything, and I just kept thinking in my mind how funny it would be if I was to snort the bath salts and then like jump out the window like and like. And like
exactly
land on
what
it,
would
like
happen.
foaming mouth and everything, and it's my engagement party.
That'd be awesome.
And it's at her house with all her family and everything. And like I just kept thinking over and over again, like how great that would be for that to actually happen.
That
I guess
shit
I should have
happens all
known
the
then.
time.
I should have known then that I should have ran.
Yeah,
Like
man.
if you're at your own engagement party,
contemplating bath salts.
thinking how funny it would be to snort bath salts and jump out of a window and just be like a savage.
That is fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
I wish he did it. But yeah, all those fucking weird drugs. I remember a couple years ago, I worked with this younger cat at my job, and you remember the fake weed, the spice or whatever. It was like potpourri.
Yeah. I never tried it, but
I mean, a lot of it sucks. It's like you barely get stoned. It's almost like you're smoking really shitty weed.
right.
But then there's some of it which is fucking insane. So I didn't know about the insane brand. I always thought it was just all the shitty brand. So the dude says to me, I bet you can't take 2 hits off this blunt. I was like, what is it? That
Whoa,
fake weed?
blunt?
Yeah, he rolled the blunt of the fake weed.
That seems excessive.
Yeah.
Doesn't it come in like tiny little containers?
It comes in like if you were gonna get chewing tobacco,
okay.
a big league chew.
And you're talking about this stuff that they used to have in head shops. So it was
Yeah, like potpourri.
it was technically legal. Like you could order it out of the back of High Times magazines
Yeah,
and shit.
yeah.
Okay,
It was like a potpourri, I think.
right.
So he's like, I bet you can't take 2 hits off this thing. I was like, give me that fucking thing. I'll take 100 hits off that. It's that fake weed. That shit sucks. He's like, not this shit. I was like, oh yeah, whatever. So I took a bunch of hits and I started tripping my fucking face off.
Really?
Like I took like 5 hits of acid. And I was like afraid to go home. No one was there. No one was at my house.
Yeah.
I was just afraid to go there. I was afraid to do everything. I get dropped off at my house, and I was afraid to walk up the steps because it just looked like miles and like an amazing feat to accomplish. So I walked around the back of my house, couldn't take my boots off, could barely walk up the stairs. I went into my bed. I laid in bed. It looked like my room was just a whole bed. So I like pulled the covers over my head and just waited for it to wear off. And like my phone rang and I was afraid to answer it. So I answered it and the girl was like, "What's wrong with you?" And that bugged me out even more. Like, what the fuck is wrong? You know what I mean? I was like, nothing. Like I was hiding something, you know?
Yeah.
And it was just the craziest experience. Like,
How long did it last?
The tripping,
Yeah.
like 20 minutes, half hour.
But it felt like an eternity.
Yeah, it felt like an eternity, and it wasn't good at all. It wasn't a good trip. It was like a bad trip. Like I wasn't hallucinating and seeing things, you know. But as far as like the way I felt, it was just a bad trip.
Yeah, you just went sideways on it. It just hit you fucking.
Yeah.
It just jumped on you.
I wasn't ready for that at all.
Yeah, right.
You know, I didn't.
Well, that's the
think it
word.
was gonna
That's why,
happen.
you know, like people. I don't know if people actually think that it's funny or whatever, but you always hear those stories about people dosing other people.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's the cruelest thing you could ever
It
do
really
to somebody,
is.
because you know what type of person thinks that dosing another person with acid is funny. Is the person who's never done acid.
Oh, I'm
because
sure.
if you've never done acid, you would never, ever in a million years think to put, because you have to go into that in the mindset of this is going to be fun. You know what I
yeah.
mean? If you weren't expecting for that to jump on you and that jumped on you, that's fucking horrible.
Yeah. Yeah, tripping is no joke, man. I would never be able to trip at this age.
Me either.
You know,
And here's why. Can I tell you why? And I've said
Yeah.
this a million times.
Yeah, that's what
It is my contention, and I'm not trying to offend everybody today, because if there's any acid guys out there still,
I don't think there's any acid guys anymore.
There's right now. There's some fucking janitor who's
On
eating
acid.
acid who's like, this son of a bitch. He's sharpening his fucking broom into a shiv.
He used his broom as a lightsaber.
Yeah, he's a tripping janitor who's a huge Carrie Fisher fan,
And
now
he's writing a
just
novel with a
fucking-
twist at the end. He's really the dead guy.
He's holding his signed M. Night Shyamalan copy of fucking The Sixth Sense. Like, why, Devin? Why? Yeah, here's my thing. I think, I'm just going to say it, if you're past the age of, I'll give you some leeway, let's say 25, even though I think that's fucking old, and you still can do acid and have fun, then you're not thinking. You don't have a brain.
You have no responsibility.
Yeah, right. You either don't have any responsibility, or because like I believe that acid is a complete child's drug, you know, and because you could take it when you don't have any responsibilities and you're still in that mind frame of, you know, when you're a kid, you don't think anything could harm you, you know, so you don't have that going into you. But if you're an adult, especially with responsibilities,
Right.
I would be sitting there and be like, oh my
I got
God,
bills to pay.
I'm 25 pounds overweight. Does she really love me? I'm in debt. You know what I mean? Like fucking,
Exactly.
you know, like I'd be checking out my hairline in the mirror for 12 hours, like
Exactly.
fucking freaking the fuck out. There's no way, and maybe I have the weakest mind in the world, I'd be able to fucking handle that shit.
Yeah.
I just wouldn't be able to do it.
And about 8 years ago, I went to Amsterdam and I ate mushrooms, and it wasn't bad. I tripped and it was good, but I feel like it was only because I was in another country. I was away from all my problems. I didn't really have anything shitty on my plate. You know, I think
Yeah.
I left with all my bills paid. You know what I mean? So I wasn't really worrying because those mushrooms were fucking intense.
Were they?
Yeah, the way they sell mushrooms, for anyone that hasn't been to Amsterdam, was you walk into this bar and there's a mini fridge, and on the mini fridge there's the different types of mushrooms that you could select from. Then there's a line graph that says visual, body high, brain high, and energy. And the line graph shows you how intense each mushroom is going to be for you know, the
Right.
type you take. So then you go into the fridge, you take out, it's a Tupperware with the rip off top, and the mushrooms are all like fresh, like you would get on a steak. You know, it's not
Are
like
they like slimy? Like
they're slimy, and they're shaped like mushrooms. They're not like the styrofoam sliver pieces of shit that we get.
Let me give you a piece of advice. When you're in Amsterdam picking out your mushrooms and the guy takes them out, don't make fun of him.
Yeah,
Because all hell breaks loose. All right, go ahead.
and they're shaped like a mushroom, and they're, you know, like you said, they're slimy. They're like real mushrooms, and they're fucking intense. But
Well, see,
never be
because
able to do that.
my experience with mushrooms, you know, and there's not much, but I remember them being pretty controllable. Like I was like,
Right.
like able to like I really get into it, but then at the same time, I was able to like pull it back in if I felt like it was getting too crazy. Like I almost had control of it. And then I remember at a certain point, which was much shorter than any acid trip, it just shut off and was like, It went from like, oh, you're seeing shit and laughing and shit's more funny and this music sounds great, and then just to being fucking like, okay, it's over, you're stone sober, like that kind of thing.
Yeah, like I always felt mushrooms to be a much more happier experience than acid.
Right.
Like when we were at Woodstock, like whenever you're away from your normal everyday life, psychedelic drugs are a way more manageable thing, I think.
Well, especially if you're like in the Woodstock situation, what Ritchie is speaking about here is that we went to the
99.
We were at the 90. Have we talked about this on the podcast?
I don't think
already?
we ever have. No.
We were at the 99 Woodstock where everybody burnt it down and shit just went nuts and or whatever. And but for the first
Pretty
few
much
days,
explains the era of music that was going on at that moment.
yeah, right. I mean, it was fucking Korn. Korn played.
Yeah.
It was Korn, Metallica, Rage Against the Machine. It was like
Chili Peppers.
It was a pretty bad show.
Yeah.
But yeah, we were there, and it was a great experience. I want to take that back
that
for
was
anything.
amazing.
It was fucking
Amazing.
nuts, especially when shit went sideways, because it became almost like a fucking Lord of the Flies thing.
Yeah.
And like I remember we were fucking leaving, and there was just cars flipped over and burning, like literally like a
Place
Mad
was
Max
burning
fucking
down,
film.
yeah.
It was nuts. My favorite fucking thing in the world, however, was the last night we were there, and half of our crew kind of already left, I think, but we were sticking around. And it wasn't so much that we wanted to see the Chili Peppers, but we kind of just wanted. We didn't
want to leave.
Yeah, we were having fun. We didn't have any place to go, so we were sticking around. But we had just bought like that day like a shit ton of weed, because I think it was like a guy gave it to us real cheap because he didn't want to drive out there with it. And so your goal was all of our goal was to smoke as much of the weed as humanly possible. Yeah. But I remember you just kept smoking and smoking and smoking. We had a little plastic bong that we carried. Do you remember this?
Yeah.
So now we're fucking watching the Red Hot Chili Peppers. And
we were next to like the biggest fire that there was.
Right. Yeah. I'll paint the scene. So we're watching the Red Hot Chili Peppers. It's the last night. It's the last band. Shit starting to get a little weird. Like people were rebelling a little bit. They were knocking over some of the concession stands. And the place was emptying out a little bit. Then people started making the giant bonfires. And I remember at one point I was sitting there watching Red Hot Chili Peppers, which isn't one of my favorite bands, but I was kind of just whatever. I was standing behind. We were all kind of in a line, but I was standing behind us a little bit. And I looked to the right of me, and there was this giant bonfire, and all these people were like butt ass naked, and they were jumping over the bonfire. And then I looked to the left of me, which was kind of out, and I saw people ripping the fences down. To the parking lot, like jumping on it and ripping the fences down. And then I looked in the front of me, and I saw you standing straight as hell, like took this giant rip off of the bong, blew it out, and just immediately passed out on your back. Do you remember that?
I remember Dornilla like caught my head. He like nestled his hand under my neck and was like, "Gotcha!" But he caught me. I was like, "Oh, sweet." But I did go down.
It just happened like it was like bonfire, fences. Richie passed out, and then we looked at each other. Everybody looked at each other like, "We got to get the fuck out of here." And then it was kind of like getting out of like a fucking Escape from New York style thing, or like where like shit's crumbling around you, and then that's when it got really crazy.
We left at the perfect amount of time.
Yeah.
Perfect time.
It was pretty nuts. But I would much have rather have been at the '94 Woodstock when Green Day was throwing mud and everybody was having fun instead of ours.
That was a great lineup.
But I'll tell you what, man, those motherfuckers deserved it, and here's the reason why. The only fucking thing to eat there was Subway, which is if you eat Subway,
disgusting.
You're a fucking savage.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
The
porta potties had a mound of shit coming out of the top of it. They weren't cleaning out the porta. I'll never forget that.
Yeah.
There was a pile of shit coming out of the top of the
It was like a
toilets.
mountain of shit in every porta. And this was the first day. This wasn't even by the last day.
It's disgusting.
And then the bottles of water were like $7 a piece or something like that.
The only thing I ate there the whole entire time was a $3 grilled cheese sandwich. And I think there was one slice of cheese on it.
I held in a shit for 4 days.
Yeah, I didn't shit the whole time I was
And
there.
then I remember when I got home, I couldn't shit. Like I was like afraid. And then when I did, it was like fucking just like a solid fucking tin can of fucking, like it was the worst. It was worse.
I remember the funniest shit was the first day we got there. I remember we had drugs for each day. Remember we brought like a drug for each day, but we got there a day early, so we didn't have a drug that day. So I was like, let's go out and find some acid. So me and two of our friends went out to go get acid, and one guy's like, I know where you could get it. There's two hippies in a blue car right next to the giant ice cream cone. They got these margaritas. I was like, sweet. So, I thought the margaritas was the picture on the tab. So I find the hippies or whatever, and I'm like, hey, you got those margaritas? And they're like, yeah, we got them. They're like, how many do you want? And I was like, 8. And we were like 10 because that's how many of us there were. They're like, no problem. So they whip out a blender, plug it into the cigarette lighter, and start making margaritas. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me?
So
I
you
was
drank
like,
10 margaritas?
I was like, James, I'd ordered 3 because there was 3 of us. And we're just sitting there with these cups of ice, no alcohol in it at all. And I'm like, you got anything else? And they're like, oh, you mean the gel tabs? I was like, thank God.
Like, how would they think you actually wanted non-alcoholic margaritas when they're sitting on a fucking load of acid?
I know.
And you're at Woodstock.
Yeah, but thank God, man, because I felt like a retard. But it was funny, man. There was so many crazy things happened that weekend. Remember the guy with the dust that gave me that dust?
Yeah. Well, my favorite thing of Woodstock was the Thursday night when we got there. Do you remember that night?
The giant frisbee toss.
And everybody was like, you know, a little sideways doing their thing.
We were tripping.
And we walked up into and they were having a giant thing. It looked like a swarm of bees in the air, and we just walked towards it, and it was just thousands of people throwing frisbees to each other, which was like cool.
Well, they were trying to break the Guinness record for the most frisbees.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah.
And that was cool, and it's like hippiness or whatever. But then, do you remember what happened right after that?
No.
Then they were doing it all because, you know, it took place on an old airplane base. So So there was all these old airplane hangars that they converted into smaller stages. And this was Thursday night before there was supposed to be any bands. You know, everyone was just showing up, and it was late at night. And we were in the middle of this frisbee thing, just like kind of in awe of its grandness. And then all of a sudden, this music started playing.
Oh yeah.
Out of a fucking one of the airplane hangars, and we're like, let's go check this out. We walk into it, and it's a fucking P-Funk show. It was Parliament Funkadelic.
Yeah.
And that was by far the high point of the whole thing, and it just kind of went downhill from there.
Well, you know what? I'm not really the biggest fan, but I thought Korn was amazing. Amazing they were.
You know what I did for Korn?
Well, it could have been because I was on a lot of dust.
I did.
But it was fucking great. If you have a chance to do PCP and watch Korn, I highly recommend it.
I'm pretty sure that's what everybody did in the 90s. I was like, you know what? I'm going to do, because I was kind of in awe of the size of the crowds the whole time.
Oh, yeah, amazing.
So when Korn played, I was like, you know what? I'm going to get into the middle of it. I just want to be in the middle of it. Like,
it was torture.
It was horrible because I walked all the way down into it, which took me an hour to get into. And then before they started playing, and then as soon as they started playing, it was unbearable to be in there because you were just in a sea of human beings and you couldn't tell which way was which or whatever. And I started kind of having like an anxiety thing, and I was like, fuck it. And then I tried to get out, and it took me even longer to get out. And by the time I got out, I think I was wearing shorts, and my shorts were ripped like all the way up to like the crotch and shit. And like, it was like literally like people tore my clothes off as I was walking out.
Yeah, like if you were never a concert goer and you have no concert experience, you could have died. You know,
right.
You have to keep moving. You have to keep, you can't stop moving. If you think you could stand in one place and watch the concert, you're out of your fucking mind. You have to keep pushing and moving, even if you don't want to be. You got to keep moving. So if you've never been to a concert before that night, consider yourself dead.
I'm sure that I've always long thought that there's people get crushed at all those giant shows, and they just don't really give those statistics out because it just, they don't want to.
I'm sure it
dampen
happens all the time.
Because you couldn't have been in the epicenter of that thing without feeling the danger of it. And of course, a band like Korn playing and having a bunch of fucking jock dudes wanting to beat each other up and everything in it, and like doing the wrong kind of slam dancing and all that shit in it made it much worse. But I'm talking about, you could be at a fucking, Simon and fucking Garfunkel concert in that mass of people, and there's just a natural like weight and movement to it as it is, and you try to go against that. It's like I guess it's kind of like being far out in the ocean and trying to swim against the ocean. Like, it's almost impossible to do. You kind of have to just let it take you, that kind of thing. And it's scary.
And the fucking idiots that were there, they're trying to keep the Woodstock tradition alive, as playing in the mud and being mud people, and didn't realize that we were in the middle of a 10-day drought and there wasn't a drop of water anywhere. And the mud that they were swimming in was the fucking sewage leaking out of the porta potties. And these people are dancing and frolicking and swimming in the fucking shit. And they were like, it's the mud. I'm like, it hasn't rained in a week. Fucking idiots.
Yeah, it's not a mudslide.
And I had one of those shit guys right next to me in Korn, and I was just like, I didn't want to go anywhere near him, but he kept pushing up against me and chugging a Bud Heavy. I was going to throw up.
Yeah, I don't know. Woodstock is one of those experiences that I want to take back, but I can't say that it was like good. Like it was an experience, but I can't say that it was a fun experience. It was very
crazy. The best was the bottled water vodka phenomenon. We had snuck alcohol in because you weren't allowed to bring alcohol, so we snuck a bunch of vodka in water bottles, and it was so hot there. It was a 100-degree day every day, and
It was very hot. And we were also, if I can interject real quick, again, on this abandoned airfield. So it wasn't like we were on grass. We were basically on black concrete.
Baking.
So
in the
just
sun.
baking.
Yeah. So every morning, someone else would wake up, go to the cooler thinking they were getting a nice cold water drink after a long night of sleeping in the sun, and chug this Mandarin vodka. That was so disgusting. And I remember one girl put it in her hair, but I woke up thirsty as hell one morning and I chugged half a bottle of vodka and I almost fucking puked, but I got wasted instead.
There is nothing worse in this world than being legitimately hungover, fucking like dehydrated to the point where all you want is like cold water and accidentally taking a sip of alcohol.
Yeah.
It's death.
And it was Mandarin too, which I fucking hate Mandarin anything. It was disgusting.
Yeah, that was very funny, and everybody kept getting hit by it. My favorite experience of Woodstock, I did not know that we were going to talk about Woodstock 99 as much as we did today, but my favorite experience of Woodstock is, do you remember at a certain point a twister rolled through?
Oh, yeah.
So imagine, if you will, listeners at home, we're in a sea of tents. Now, this was the last day during the day.
Yeah.
So some people had left. There was a lot of abandoned tents.
It was like right after Metallica was done, because I remember they strummed their last chord and the fucking twister came.
Yeah. And we were all hanging around the campsite, and there was, as far as you could see, just fucking tents everywhere forever. And it got really dark, and the wind started getting really strong. And so we were like, holy shit, something's coming through. So I was with my girlfriend from high school at the time, and we had like one of those small 2-people tents. You know,
you were holding
it
down.
So I was like, get in a tent. And I made it, and the twister came through, and I made her, so she now was laying in the tent on her back, right, with her legs and hands in every corner of the tent. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So she's like, you know, like in every corner, she's laying down. And then I laid on top of her, like facing her, like nose to nose, and then put my hands and thing, and like and then
super support system.
and then rode out the twister. Like it was like, and I was sitting there like, we're going to get through this. The craziest part of it was we got through it, obviously, because I'm here to tell the tale today.
Yeah.
But we got out, it finally passed, and then the sun came out again, and I got out, and I opened the tent to what was millions of tents, and there was like I don't know, like 15 tents scattered around, and then one of the tents was on fire. Do you remember that?
Yeah. That
So
dude
somewhere
burned it
in this
down.
twister, not only did it take all of the unoccupied tents with it and just blew it like who knows where, but then somehow, somewhere, either somebody lit a tent on fire,
I think
or
the dude lit it on fire.
it was very like post-apocalyptic, the whole fucking thing. Yeah.
My favorite part was, remember that fucking drunk Klansman from Delaware? That was right. His tent was like a little away from ours, and he kept coming over going, white power.
No, that I do not remember.
Dom from Delaware, white power.
I do remember a group of rowdy Canadians that we got down with.
Oh, yeah, I remember the
very cool.
Canadians, because they were like, if we didn't have pot, they were like our go-to for just to smoke. But yeah, during that whole twister, I was just in my tent. Like, if I'm going out in style, baby. And I just sniffed like a whole bottle of K.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
You weren't kidding about that.
Nah.
See, I wasn't, that was kind of in when I was kind of getting out of the whole, the drug thing. So
Yeah. Well, it was towards the end of it. But I was like, shit, if we're going to Woodstock.
No, I get it. But I'm
Yeah.
just saying, like, I had no idea that there was so much dust and K rolling all over the place.
Oh, yeah.
Ketamine is a very weird thing.
It
And the
is.
fact that people still do ketamine is very weird also. You think
Yeah.
that would have been one of those drugs that kind of came, and then one day everybody collectively went, why are we doing this?
Oh my God! I found some a couple of years ago. I found some, and I just did a little bit of it, and it rocked my world. And I was like, I just can't do anything anymore.
Now, when you say you found some, does that mean that you broke into an animal hospital and stole some?
No, I wish,
Because K
no.
isn't the type of thing that you just accidentally find,
Well,
like an
so-
old bag of weed.
Well, because someone had it, and I was like, no, you do not have that. And they were like, yes, I do. I really do. I didn't believe them, and they really fucking had it. I was like, holy shit, you have K. I didn't think it still existed.
Whoa.
On that note, I remember a friend of ours used to cook K with vanilla extract, so it tasted like Cocoa Krispies. Remember that shit?
No.
That shit was bang.
Oh, we could do the K show on Tuesday if you'd
Stay
like.
tuned for the special ketamine show.
You start talking about drugs and then that's it. It just flies through. Thank you for listening to the Awkward High Five podcast and us regaling you with our Woodstock stories tonight.
Oh, there'll be more of those to come for sure.
If you want to be a part of the 100 review party when it happens, please go to iTunes and leave a written review. And then email us at awkwardhigh5podcast@gmail.com and tell us that you wrote a review, and we'll send you some stickers. And also follow us on Twitter. Also, I'd like to give a really big shout out, as the kids say, to Brian and Nephew's Skate Shop and all those guys, because they've been retweeting all our tweets and trying to get us involved and get more tweeters.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
Because we're struggling on the Twitter. I'm not going to lie about it. We're doing great on Facebook. Everybody's liking on Facebook and everything, but the Twitter is low. So if you're a tweeter,
start tweeting.
Start. So hit us up. We'll make it fun for you, I promise. All right, we'll see you in a few short days.
Get more pay less, wanna smoke you up. Inhale my best and I'm out of love. With love, with breath, wanna smoke you up. Even though my chest hurts, smoke you up. Get more pay less, wanna smoke you up. Inhale my best and I'm out of love. Surrounded by seeds, I'm lost in the trees. My thirst and hunger seem to increase.
Thanks for listening to the Awkward High Five podcast. For more episodes, visit awkwardhigh5.com.